Dr. Brandon Kofford, thanks for spending some time with me. You've been a prosthodontist in practice for 15 years, doing a lot of pros work, a lot of full mouth rehab, and you are doing some really innovative things that are carving a path that is very unique in the world of full arch dentistry. And I'm a huge fan of digital workflows, the accuracy of digital, and there's for sure, benefits to digital workflow, but you are treating patients in a unique way that is saving time, providing amazing outcomes, and I'm just so excited to talk to you about that. So let's jump into the patient here that you want to start with, and then we'll have some fun talking about what you're doing.
Yeah, Rob, thanks for having me and thinking of me. I know that in this world of digital, a lot of what I do doesn't seem all that advanced, but the reality is I think it's even more advanced than what my colleagues who are so married to their digital workflows is, because I can always go into the digital workflow when it's appropriate. But oftentimes I run into situations where speed and efficiency is the name of the game.
So Dr. Brandon, rapid arches are pre-manufactured arches used for provisionalizing a patient the day of surgery. Yes, it's an analog process. However, you are selecting a small, medium, or large arch form with a tapered round or square shape and fitting them to the patient day of surgery. And you can use these for short-term provisionals, or you could use these for long-term provisionals with the Trilor-reinforced bar, and then let the patient heal and then get ready for the long-term prosthesis, whether it be a tie bar or zirconia or whatever. Tell us a little bit about rapid arches here, where people can find them, and just the quick high-level summary of what they are and how you use them.
Yeah, the high-level summary is these are dentures that are contoured to accommodate any palatal form. So they can go into any patient's mouth, and then with either acrylic or with PBS, you can fit them to be custom for the patient. So you're just setting the teeth properly in the patient's face, and then making the intaglio contours custom to the patient, whether it's for a removable denture or whether it's for an overdenture or for a fixed complete denture. These are milled PMMA teeth with a pressure-packed pink acrylic. So the teeth do not stain, they're very wear resistant, and they're great. They're actually fabricated by Harvest Dental. We have them manufactured for us in California, and then we process them here in North Carolina. They're available through smartonx.com, and this is, in my opinion, it's one of the easiest ways to simplify my approach to full arch fixed. It shortens my lead time to get to surgery. So just a much simpler way to do anything that requires a complete set of complete teeth. Dentures.
This episode is brought to you by Rebel Crown. Are your dental crowns seated in minutes with flush margins and personal one-on-one service? If not, it's your time to rebel. The Rebel Crown is designed by your personal technician who you can call or text anytime. Milled with premium Harvest Nano Zirconia, manufactured here in the USA with a 1-week turnaround time. Learn more at rebel3d.com. That's REBEL 3D.com.
So here you have this patient that presented to me. I work 1 day a week down in a practice in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And this patient found this oral surgery practice down in Fayetteville through her network of friends, but she lives 6 hours away. And what you see on the left hand of the screen is her set of teeth. 9 sets of teeth, Rob. And
9. Okay.
it has been predominantly a digital workflow.
What went wrong? What was the problem she kept running into 9 times?
So I think that's just it. Nobody could identify what the problem was. And so they just kept trying things and it wasn't resolving the problem. And so she came to me, and she had driven 6 hours to see me down in this Fayetteville practice. And, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, she had her teeth extracted, implants placed, and she was going into something fixed. She is now presenting with an overdenture, maxillary mandibular overdenture that snaps onto locators that are screwed onto her multi-unit abutments from when she was in a fixed restoration.
Mm.
And the reason why they moved to a removable solution was because they just couldn't figure out what was going on with the fixed. And so
Was it breaking, or what was her complication?
no, she was having discomfort. She was having aesthetic concerns, and just you name it. They just were getting really frustrated. Both the patient and the doctor were getting really frustrated with this process for her. So she is on her 9th set of teeth. She comes to me. I'm a smart denture conversions guy. So she presents with an overdenture. Oh yeah, go ahead and just convert it with smart denture conversions, right? That's what it seems like you would do. But I don't want to be stuck with her for another 9 sets of teeth, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to touch those teeth in the event that what I do for her doesn't work. I want to be able to put her right back to how she was when she and I first met. Okay. So here we are. The patient's come 6 hours to see me. She's having these issues. And I think I know what the problem is. I think I can solve it, but I don't want to touch those teeth. So what do I do? Well, in less than 2 hours, she's leaving the practice with the smile that you see on the right hand of the screen.
So the one on the left is her original,
Yes.
and the one on the right?
The one on the left is her
Is the new
original,
one.
and the arch is a little narrow, and she looks a little mousy. And the one on the right, that's what I made her, and it broadens her smile, and she doesn't look as mousy. This is the same day. She's wearing the exact same clothes. You can see that, right? The blue t-shirt,
Yes.
the gray jacket.
Yeah, there's a 2-hour difference between left and right here.
Yes, and this is the first time that I've met her, right? So within 2 hours, she's in a world better position than she was when she first came in. So this is my life. I just have to solve these types of problems, right? So I'll just take you through this. This patient right here found me in New York, and he was coming into Raleigh to do some house hunting because he's moving to the Raleigh area. And so I scheduled it so that Monday I would meet him. Tuesday we would go to surgery. And these are the prostheses he left with before lunch on Tuesday, right? Then I have, this patient right here. He had spent $50,000 with a provider here in town because he was ashamed of his smile. Rob, did he get his money's worth?
Man, 50 grand on this. Is that a titanium bar underneath there that the denture cracked over?
Yeah, so it's a titanium bar with printed teeth that were fused with that titanium bar or locked onto that titanium bar. But the titanium bar is not connected to the temp cylinders. And so I told him, come back tomorrow and I'll fix you up. So he comes back the next day, and you see the broken prosthesis he came in with, and then you see the prosthesis I made him for the maxilla. Here's what you see for the mandible. So just a lot better. The intaglio contours, this is something I harp on a lot. You have to have ideal intaglio contours, so convex hygienic contours. And then this is the smile he leaves with. And what's awesome...
So how are you able to fix him up so quickly?
Okay, so...
I mean, what?
Exactly. I just wanted to set the stage, right? These are real world problems. And this patient broke down in tears. A grown man broke down in tears because he could now go home to his 9-year-old daughter and look her in the eye without her looking away because she's embarrassed by the way he looks. So these are human problems. So how did we do this so quickly? Well, Rob, you kind of know this because we've spoken about this, and I use Harvest dental products to address this problem. Yes. During COVID, I reached out to my brother who's an orthodontist, and he does a lot of iTero scans in his practice, which means I have access to his post-orthodontic models. So he gave me access to his records, and just at random, I started pulling cases in, and I would do the measurements of the arch length.
So we've got these rapid arches, you call them. You took hundreds, maybe thousands of scans post-orthodontic treatment, and you've identified that there are patterns in human anatomy with, small, medium, large, and triangular, round, and squared. Tell us what this means and how this is so effective for your treatment.
Right. So from the measurements I made, my technician and I then made a set of small, medium, and large dentures with idealized occlusion that work within the parameters or the data that we received. And what was crazy to me was in that process, I started to notice that my brother's post-ortho cases all had a very similar arch form. now I just have to use these arch forms and get them properly positioned in the patient's face, and we should be like 90% of the way there. And it's turned out to
Yes.
be, it's more like 100% of the way there, right? So this guy right here, I always tell people it's not about custom prostheses, it's about customized prostheses. So this guy shows up to my office for a double arch consult. He only has a maxillary complete denture. He's a dentulous in the mandible with no denture, but that upper denture looks terrible. I said, well, I'm not going to convert that. So I went to the back and I grabbed one of our rapid arches ready to go. And I put it in his mouth with some bite registration in the palate just to help hold it in the proper position. And then I handed him the mirror and I said, what do you think? And he says, oh my gosh, I'm back. This is how I remember myself looking before I had my teeth extracted.
That's unbelievable. And these, on the right, he's wearing the rapid arches.
Right. That's just the maxillary rapid arch, just to see what he thought of the aesthetics. And so since he was like ecstatic with the aesthetics, I was like, okay, great. We're ready to go to surgery. And he signed up to do a double arch surgery. So this gentleman on the left, he had a terrible gag reflex. We don't have to do an impression, just rapid arches. And so here you see a zirconia prosthesis that was a template that was templated off of his rapid arches. And then the patient, the gentleman on the far right of this slide, these are just conventional dentures that were made with rapid arches. This lady right here, these are the insertion of her zirconia prosthesis based off of her rapid arch converted prosthesis. This guy right here, broken prosthesis, great. Grab a prosthesis off the shelf and convert it with smart denture conversions, and he's happy as a lark. This guy is a busy chef, and he's a dentulous in the maxilla, but he was going to be edentulated in the mandible. And so the denture he presented with had a broken number 8 and number 7, and just wasn't good enough for me to really want to use as the opposing arch for the arch he's going to have surgerized. So I grabbed a rapid arch, border molded it, final impressed, and then I went to surgery with the mandibular complementary denture that we converted with smart denture conversions. And there you see him in his post-op. I think that's his 2-week post-op, maybe 1 month post-op. And he is just over the moon thrilled with the outcome of his smile. And all it was an appliance off the shelf that was properly positioned in his face, properly sized and properly positioned in his face. Same thing. Like here's a technique that we use with using these rapid arches as more of like an impression tray, and then just using the mandibular prosthesis to convert it into something better before taking her to her final prosthesis. All right, so I wanted to show you this case, Rob. I'm a big fan of PMMA, like a huge fan. I'm also a huge fan of titanium tie bases, right? So that my screw seat is metal, my screw is metal, my screw seat is metal, the interface of my tie base with my abutment is metal. I like having that. There's a big fad right now going on, or, this is pretty trendy right now.
We'll see how long the trend
is to take prosthetics directly to the multi-unit abutment, no tie bases, and they have screws that are optimized for this type of approach. Here in this image, this patient was treated in Boulder, Colorado. Her provider reached out to me because she has moved 3 hours from my office, and he found out that her prosthesis is broken. This prosthesis is less than 6 months old, and it's just a printed mandibular prosthesis. And luckily he had printed her multiples, but this was intended to be her final restoration. According to the doctor, I asked, if you want to just send me the zirconia prosthesis, I'll be happy to deliver those for you. And he told me, we're not going to zirconia. This is her final. And I don't know how you feel about that, Rob, but
Yeah. PMMA is awesome material, but long-term provisional, I think, is as big of a promise as we should make it, unless it was over a titanium bar. If it is over a titanium bar, like the I-bar style, I think it could absolutely be effective long-term.
However, you still have this problem.
Years. Yeah.
So that's what this was intended to be. And this was sold to this patient as like their definitive restoration. So it's just
unbelievable.
It's just
so when this
it's just unfortunate.
So rapid arches it is, customized to fit the patient, and you are using it with your chairside conversion technique, but you use it as an interim, right? As a long-term provisional to then give them a test drive of something that's gonna last. And the rapid arches are Trilor-reinforced.
Not all of them,
Is
but
that correct?
they're designed to. So I'm glad you brought up Trilor. So they're designed to accommodate a prefabricated Trilor arch bar. And thanks to your help, we were able to get some Trilor arch forms that fit perfectly into these rapid arches. And what's great about Trilor is the flexural strength is like 5 times greater than PMMA.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so with smart denture conversions, you pick up the tie bases and then you drill your hole. So titanium wouldn't work for that,
Yeah.
but
Can't
this
drill through it.
Trilor is
Yeah.
it's a fiberglass reinforced composite, right? So you can drill through it. And so it just made a ton of sense for us to incorporate this Trilor into the rapid arch at the time of pickup of our temp cylinders, our tie bases, so that we could have a reinforced provisional restoration. I don't sell it as a definitive restoration, but I do sell it as a definitive quality restoration, right? And so what I'm really trying to do is provide a restoration, a predictable restoration for my patients where they get the most bang for their buck at the time of surgery. They get the teeth, the infections all cleaned up, they get implants placed, they get a brand new smile, everything. Biggest bang for their buck is at the time of surgery. But sometimes that's all the patient can afford is the surgical fee. So, I just wanted them to have a definitive style restoration that could last them long enough that they could recuperate financially to either go to the definitive or to just do it again. Like if they were happy with it the first time, then great. Let's say it lasts 3 or 5 years. Okay. They don't have the money to go to the zirconia. Let's just do it again. Right there on the spot in the office. It's a super simple solution that I just think.
So on the day of surgery, you could be extracting teeth, placing implants, use a Trilor-reinforced rapid arch, do a chairside conversion, and they have teeth in a day that's likely going to last for at least a year, likely longer as they heal and maybe their bank account heals, and then they can transition into a long-term prosthetic like zirconia.
Absolutely. So right now, I've only been doing this for about 2 years now. So I have patients who are coming up on their 2-year anniversary in their provisional prosthesis that's Trilor-reinforced. However, we've done research, like static load testing research, to compare prosthesis that is made with smart denture conversions and milled PMMA or smart denture conversions and a printed denture or smart denture conversions and a Trilor-reinforced milled PMMA, like a Trilor framework with cemented tie bases and a milled PMMA superstructure. And the group that had the Trilor with the cemented tie bases was significantly stronger than any of the other groups. The groups that were just smart denture conversions and no reinforcement, well, they obviously had a catastrophic failure. But the group what was interesting was the group that had the Trilor arch bar incorporated into the smart denture conversions pickup, although there were failures, none of them were catastrophic failures. It was just a failure to the point where the static load reached its maximum and then it started going, the curve went back down, right? So, but none of them were catastrophic failures. That's the nice thing about this reinforcement. It reinforces the prosthesis to the point that even if it does fail, the failure will not be catastrophic, which means you can simply repick up a tie base where you might have overloaded the tie base and the acrylic holding the tie base. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The
It's
prosthesis,
not going to snap in half,
exactly.
so to
The
speak. You might
prosthesis stays intact.
you might lose you might lose a tooth or have something that can be repaired.
Yeah, totally. And so here you see the rapid arch with the space built into the denture for the Trilor arch form. And then you just incorporate that in your pickup. Here you can see it incorporated. And now this particular case has been in service for just about 2 years. It'll be 2 years in December.
And something else that I want to hone in on here is the perfect occlusion,
Oh.
right? Because you get I'm assuming you put the maxilla in place to where it's ideal.
Yeah.
So you get the midline, and you're placing it over the ridge where it needs to be,
Mm-hmm.
and then you are fitting the lower to the maxilla, and because it's pre-manufactured with perfectly optimized interdigitated occlusion, you're then converting it to the lower ridge in a perfect occlusal relationship. Talk about that. It's an obvious point, but I think it's a really good one to have this perfect occlusion. I mean, when you're done placing an upper and lower rapid arch, you're not doing any occlusal adjustments, right?
Right. Absolutely. And that's one of my favorite things. Like, I just have not found anything to be more predictable and give me better occlusion than smart denture conversions. And just so luckily, the day before, we had done a conversion of the rapid arch with smart denture conversions. And just like you laid out, the maxillary arch is positioned for aesthetics, right? So you're going to put the midline in the patient's facial midline. You're going to put the incisal edge. So for males, it's 1 to 2 millimeters of visible in repose, and then 3 to 4 millimeters of incisal edge visible in repose for females. The whole shebang, right? You want to control the cant, but you just put teeth where teeth belong, and then you put the mandibular arch up against the maxillary arch, and then you control or manipulate the patient into centric relation, and then you just close them down into that intaglio that's filled with acrylic, right? You close them down and let the acrylic set up. And that way you end up with perfect occlusion that doesn't need to be adjusted. And sure enough, they decided they weren't even going to try to adjust the occlusion on these digital prosthetics. It was just so off. So they take them out, they put the smart denture conversions rapid arches in the patient's mouth. It goes in real easy. And then they close the patient down, and it's perfect occlusion. They don't even have to make a single adjustment. And that's been my experience too. Because there's no better articulator in this world than the actual patient.
Yeah, we talk about patient-specific motion and patient-specific articulation, and it's interesting. You're using an analog process in the mouth, but while you're in the mouth, you are capturing patient-specific motion right there in the mouth. And so when you're fitting the lower to the upper and identifying where this perfect centric needs to be, you are capturing that. So then when you convert it and clean it all up, you're not adjusting anything. It's adjusted by the patient's natural jaw motion in the mouth.
I wanted to highlight this case though, Rob, because this was actually your suggestion that I try, and I loved it. So
what'd we do? I forget.
So this is a patient who could not afford to do the full arch fixed all the way to the final restoration. It was too big of a price tag, so he was considering doing overdentures. Nothing against overdentures. However, for me, it's actually easier to manage a patient who does fixed than it is a patient who does overdentures. So I said to him, tell you what, I've been wanting to try this out, and I'd love for you to be my guinea pig, and I'll make sure to take care of you if things don't work out the way that I think they will. But I'm pretty sure they'll work out. So this doctor didn't want to load the implants at the time of placement. So we made the patient wear an immediate denture, but the immediate denture was a rapid arch denture that was made custom for him. But you can see a little bit you can see the Trilor bar if you look closely.
On the lingual a little bit, yeah.
Well, this is an actual thimble bar that supports the teeth and makes the prosthesis even stronger than that Trilor arch bar in there, than just the flat Trilor arch bar. And so this patient is fully expecting this prosthesis to last for several years before he either does it again, just does a conversion of a rapid arch again, or goes on to a zirconia prosthesis if he sees value in going on to a zirconia prosthesis. I hope it's evident what I'm trying to get to is making a high quality, long-term provisional restoration that doesn't have the same types of trade-offs or, disadvantages that you get when you do something like this unfortunate patient had, where They said, oh, we're going to do a digital workflow, and then you're going to have a direct to abutment solution, and we're going to do a 3D printed restoration as your definitive restoration. It's unfortunately, I don't think we're there. That's not a good solution for me. I don't like managing complications. I like having predictable outcomes and predictable success. And so here I have this patient where I made this provisional restoration after he had worn the denture for about 3 or 4 months while he was just recuperating from the extractions and the implant placement. And then it was just he had already worn the denture. He already liked the aesthetics. So it was just a matter of, okay, let's convert it. And that takes all of less than an hour. And this is a long-term reinforced provisional restoration where I have metal screws resting on metal screw seats, tie bases that are resting against metal abutments, and you just don't have the same complications you have when you take those things away. Yeah, for me, it's all about predictability and not having these huge complications, challenging complications.
So for doctors that are either doing or want to get into like this teeth in a day process, you would then teach them how to do rapid arches. So extractions, place your implants, place the maxilla, rapid arch, size the arch, pick the right one, place the maxilla, convert the lower in the mouth with the patient-specific articulation, and then they're going to have teeth in a day.
Absolutely.
And then from there, though, what is your recommended process for converting a rapid arch into a long-term zirconia prosthesis?
Yeah, so my big thing is just focus on making a really nice provisional restoration, and then when the patient buys off on it and they absolutely love it, then it's just copy it. Don't.
Yeah, you've got occlusion, you've got everything, so we're going to copy it, but then what's your recommended process for, are we taking photogrammetry scans of implant location? How are we capturing implant location and coordinates and then going to final? What's your recommended flow?
So what I like to do, because I like having tie bases in my prostheses, so I like having a physical model. I know it sounds like I'm an ancient practitioner, right? I'm stuck in the stone, literally the Stone Age.
Stone Ages, yeah.
But I just like the advantages I get with tie bases. Well, if you're going to do tie bases, you have to have a physical model. It's not more accurate to do photogrammetry and then print out a model and put lab analogs into that model. That's not more accurate. What's most accurate is to just take the prosthesis out of the patient's mouth, throw some lab analogs onto that prosthesis, and then embed those lab analogs into stone. Before I do that, I always do a soft tissue moulage by injecting light body PVS onto the intaglio of the prosthesis that I made them. Then I just embed it in stone, and now I'll go to the digital realm. Now I have a lab scanner in my office. I also have an intraoral scanner, but the lab scanner is so much better, so much easier. So with the prosthesis on this model that I just made, I scan the prosthesis on the stone model, and then we take the prosthesis off, give it back to the patient, and then we scan what we call the master cast that has the intaglio contours captured in it. We scan that with some impression copings for the multi-unit abutments. And then we can just very easily, in the digital realm, copy the prosthesis exactly how it is. So that's my preferred workflow.
And if you're copying it, the midline, lip support, phonetics, and all that's already been worked out in your provisional.
Yeah.
And so, and occlusions dialed in.
Right.
Everything's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And here, in fact, let me show you this video. Will video come through on this podcast? All right. So here we go. This is Pam.
Okay, Pam, what do you think?
Can you hear the audio?
Yeah?
Yeah.
You got the midline right?
Yes.
How do you like the colors?
Love it.
Yeah? How's the bite feel?
Feels good.
How much adjusting did we have to do on that bite?
Not much.
Did I pick up a handpiece at all today? 0.
I love that. And are those the rapid arches or is that the final?
So these are the final zirconia restorations that were copies of her rapid arches converted with smart denture conversions. All right.
Wow.
So that's how predictable this is. When you work out in the patient's mouth, everything, aesthetics, then getting to the final restoration is super easy because they fit exactly like what the patient's been wearing in their provisionals. So I always focus on your provisional restorations, make them awesome. And don't overcomplicate it. It can be as easy as taking a set of teeth off the shelf and just positioning it properly. Is the midline in the right place? Is the incisal edge where it belongs? And then did you get it in the right occlusion? And then just copy it. Copy it with, you could throw prosthetic scan bodies. Smart on X sells prosthetic scan bodies. So you can just screw prosthetic scan bodies onto the prosthesis and then do an intraoral scan or do a desktop scan with prosthetic scan bodies in place. And it is an exact copy of the provisional restoration.
Unbelievable. So, I mean, you're blazing a trail with, chairside customizable arches, but it's using analog process, and you're really innovating an analog process that in many ways is as good, or maybe we could argue better than a digital workflow for teeth in a day, right? For, because teeth in a day in a digital workflow, there's a lot of things that have to come together. You got to get a good implant location scan, so photogrammetry, and then tissue scan, and then you got to do a chairside design really quick, and then you got to print it, and then you got to apply the pink tissue and then deliver it. Right. Many doctors are successful, and there is for sure a viable workflow there.
For sure.
But what you're arguing, what you're offering here with the rapid arches is use pre-manufactured teeth, fit them together, size the arch, fit them together in the mouth, and they can walk out with teeth in a day that look beautiful, function really well. And it was in fact a fully analog process.
Yeah, I know. It sounds so backwards, Rob. And you're talking to an owner of a laboratory that focuses on digital workflows. Right?
I know. And I've been a passionate advocate of digital workflows for over a decade. And, I think digital is awesome, has a lot of advantages. But the reason I'm talking to you and covering this is because this is an effective workflow that people should know about. And I think it's great.
Well, I really appreciate your advocacy. This case right here, this case was a tragedy because you can see there, implant number 8, we had some bone loss. And
is that the actual implant, like screw threads showing through there?
That's the actual implant. And so the abutment, and she has a high smile line, and the abutment was visible and it just looked terrible. And the prostheses that she had made looked awful. She hated them. I don't have a picture of how they were before. I wish I did, but they were just terrible. So this is that practice down in Fayetteville I work at. The surgeon was so embarrassed by what the previous prosthodontist had made for this patient. He said, "Brandon, I don't care what we have to do. Will you please fix this?" I said, "This is so easy." So I looked at it, and the abutment of number 8 was going to be a problem. So I said, "We have 5 other implants, so let's just go ahead and sleep this implant." And so before we sleep the implant, I'm going to just make some prostheses for her that meet her aesthetic expectations. So I grabbed the appropriate sized rapid arch. I cut the flange completely away because she's more of an FP2, FP1 style prosthesis. And so here you see the prosthesis. This is an off-the-shelf set of teeth, and look at how well that fits in her smile. All right,
those teeth she's wearing on the left were pre-manufactured before she ever walked in, is what you're saying?
Yeah, well before I ever met her.
Unbelievable.
Isn't that crazy?
Unbelievable. It's such a disruptive idea to think that, because I know you're a quality doctor that cares about quality treatment.
Yeah.
And so by pre-manufacturing, it's not like you're just trying to make things cheap.
No.
What you're trying to do is make things fast and efficient.
Right. And you have to think about it from a consumer perspective, I think. We live in a day and age where just about everything is available to patients almost instantaneously, right? And so I think about myself. If I was a patient, how many visits would I want to have to come to in order to fix something? As few as possible. If I was a patient having surgery, would I want to come back the next day to have prosthetics delivered, have to be re-anesthetized and go through that discomfort? No way. I would want to wake up with the teeth already in my mouth and let me just get home, right? So, I could just show you case after case. Look at this case. Look at that gummy-smile.
Look at that bruxism too. Holy crap.
Yes. So she said, I was looking at man, I do not want to have to dentulate this patient, but I cannot see any real good options with us keeping her teeth. Could you do crown lengthening? Sure, but then you're in the furcation, right? So
Oh my gosh, this is a tough case.
you would think this is a tough case, right?
Yeah, I mean, she's overclosed and she's used to it.
This is a super easy case, super easy. So here we just extract the teeth, reduce the bone, smart denture conversions. These are omnidirectional multi-unit abutments, which we should probably talk about. And then these are the rapid arches that I used to restore her. Those are teeth
And
off.
so these aren't Trilor-reinforced.
No, I did not have room to do the Trilor-reinforcement here. Yep. So
that's an option with rapid arch. You may or may not want to or need to use Trilor.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
So there's room for the Trilor, but here I didn't have the space to do that. I needed to close her down just a little bit more. So we were going to the zirconia anyway, so I didn't need to reinforce it. So here you see the pre-op pano and post-op pano there. Here, the picture in the upper right here, this is right after surgery, right? So she's leaving and she's just super thrilled. And then this picture right here is her 1 month post-op.
And that's still her rapid arch?
That's her temporary prosthesis. That is her teeth off the shelf, rapid arches converted.
So that's an upper and a lower arch that was pre-manufactured. You did bone reduction, implant placement, and then fit them together, perfect occlusion, because they were pre-manufactured with perfect occlusion. And that's how she looks. Tell me.
We're just waiting for the gingiva to heal. Make sure that we like the intaglio contours of the prosthesis. If we don't, we'll add some acrylic to it. And then we'll just copy those prostheses because she absolutely loves her provisionals. And I truly believe in that philosophy. Make them beautiful, make them meet the patient's expectations, and then getting to the finals is a piece of cake.
Yeah, because you don't want to be having all these unmet promises in the provisional, right? If the provisional looks good, feels good, functions good, they can talk and eat and everything is awesome, then there's not a big leap to the final. The final is just making a copy of the provisional, and it's just going to be made out of better material, maybe look a little more aesthetic.
Yep.
But that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite thing to do is 3 months after the surgery, I ask my patient, what do you want to change about your beautiful smile? And they think about it. They're like, oh, do I have to change anything? And I say, no, absolutely. We don't have to change anything. What about color? And they're like, oh, can we go a little bit lighter? Sure, we can go a little bit lighter. No problem. And that's the only change that they want to make.
That's the easy.
Yeah.
That's
super predictable. Look at this case. Again, gummy-smile. You look at this, you say, no way. That is a tough case. Look at this bite. Look at this malocclusion. Class 2. Can you see my mouse right here?
Yeah.
That's not her upper tooth. That's her lower tooth impinging against the edentulous ridge right there.
Right.
Super collapsed bite,
hard.
super gummy-smile. You look at this and you're like, no, this is going to be a disaster. And no, here you see the bone reduction, right? And then you place your implants. And I love these multi-unit abutments, these omnidirectional multi-unit abutments, which we call the omnibut. Here you see our smart denture conversion components in place, ready for pickup. And then here's the maxillary converted prosthesis, and that is rapid arches.
Unbelievable. Off the shelf.
Off the shelf. And then here you see...
Unbelievable.
This is actually our M1.4 version of the omnibut. So it's a little bit different than the original omnibut, but it allows for the standard prosthetic screws. And then there's that mandibular prosthesis. Now, remember, she is a deep overbite, which is a class 2 malocclusion. And so here I'm treating a class 2 malocclusion with stock dentures, rapid arches, and giving her a beautiful smile.
Oh my gosh.
That she is just so proud of. Now, this is the day of surgery, so she's still anesthetized. Her facial muscles aren't really doing what they typically do, but I should get some pictures of her now. She feels like a model. She tells me people come up all the time and they just say, hey, can I take a picture with you? You just have the most beautiful smile.
She's beautiful.
She is.
She's beautiful.
But she's, so I love the human component to these stories, right? She was adopted, and later in life, by the time I took this picture, it had been, I don't know, maybe a year that she found out who her biologic family was. But she was not in a place where she wanted to meet them because she didn't want them to have the wrong impression about her. She looks like she's a meth mouth, but she's not.
So this is just natural biological complications.
And not having sufficient funds to actually do dental treatment. Now, by the time I met her, this is after she's done orthodontic treatment.
Oh, wow, so she was just trying the best she could.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't fault the orthodontist. Orthodontist was probably talked into doing this by the patient, but this patient never needed orthodontic treatment. All she needed was to edentulate so that she could have a significant improvement to her aesthetics. And now she has all the confidence in the world. She feels beautiful because she is beautiful.
I love this case. So these are her teeth in the day with rapid arches.
So this is a maxillary complete denture over a mandibular fixed. The maxillary implants were not stable. So luckily we had anticipated that they wouldn't be stable because the CBCT just showed very poor quality bone. So the plan from the beginning was for me to do we were going to spare 4 teeth, and I was going to do a shell provisional on her natural 4 teeth while implants integrated. And then once the implants were integrated, we'd remove the 4 remaining teeth and then go to an FP1 style prosthesis. And somewhere along the line, the plans changed, but I wasn't told until like the week before her surgery. And so I said, okay, no problem. We'll just use stock dentures. So as soon as the upper teeth were taken out, the implants went in, I stepped in and I just border molded that stock denture. And then I went to the laboratory and contoured the rapid arch to be a denture. And then I was finished before they had started the lower surgery. And then we just used the upper denture to serve as our template, right? So the denture goes in and then you rotate you put the mandibular teeth against the maxillary teeth, and then you rotate the patient closed in centrifugation, and this is the result you get. You just get a perfect bite.
That is amazing. Well, I can't wait to learn more. We're going to jump in and take a look at some cases together.
I can't wait. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you, Dr. Brand.